very obscure, and a lot of it has been said that Cologne was a known Marrano-Jewish name among some people, but that's as far as the speculation has gone. I mean, Columbus himself, by his own diary, shows himself to be an extremely Christian-minded person. So the question is whether he's committed completely in his soul, or whether this is just an intellectual facade that he has kept up. Whether a facade or a complete commitment, he certainly acted along those lines. So I don't really think that we can go very far with the idea of the Jewish complete background of Columbus. But certainly the timing of the voyage seems to be really coincidental in terms of the kinds of things that we have seen happening here. Keeping on the Jewish tack there, what were the Jews seeking? Well, many, in trying to answer this question for the financing, the answer to the question, I think, would be quite simple. They may have been interested in financing this for business purposes, but in fact they may have been seeking refuge somewhere. And it has been speculated that these sorts of voyages and the backing and being interested in voyages of this kind were directly connected to the situation of being expelled from Spain. So this is something you'll have to think about yourselves, whether you think there is a connection. There's no direct evidence that can pinpoint that Jewish people or Marrano-Jewish people were involved not only in the cruise but in the financing of these kinds of voyages in order to find themselves a future sheltering place, which in fact happened to some of them, or whether this is just mythology. That's something that you will have to speculate about yourself. I'm not able to enter into the mindset of most of these people. So I think, to sum up, I think we can give the conclusions of what happened to the Jewish-Muslim presence in these areas. As far as the Muslim side of things, Muslim life really came to an end in Spain, and this tremendous flowering that we saw there, leading up to people like, as I said, Averroes, Ibn Rushd, another great Muslim sociological thinker, Ibn Khaldun. He too was set in motion by these events and ended up not in Spain but in Egypt and Syria, and working for the Mongols, of all people, in the late 1400s. So great Muslim thinkers also were set adrift by this Reconquista process in Spain. Great Jewish thinkers too, as I said, were set adrift. Many went to Cairo. A lot of them even, or some were reputed to have ended up in Jerusalem itself. This very famous Spanish Arab Jewish poet called Yehuda Halevi, the mythology, who wrote in Arabic, wrote his philosophical treatises in Arabic, wrote some of his poetry in Arabic. It is said that he too was on his way to Jerusalem. This was in the 1100s, in the dislocations earlier, when he met his death in an unknown manner. Even this individual, Abraham Zakuta, whom I mentioned to you, the one who was involved in the astrolabe, the one who perfected a metal astrolabe, the one who was involved in the charts and the scientific charts of the astronomical tables and so on that were used by the navigators. Even this individual originally left in 1492. In 1497, the Jews were expelled from Portugal. He had gone to Portugal and had taken part in the navigational activities in Portugal for 5 years. Then he ended up adrift in North Africa, and the stories go, and I don't know if it is true or not, he ended up in Jerusalem also. So you see, you have this constant stream of these kind of people out, and this really is the cultural background that led to Columbus's voyages. I really can't focus it completely on Columbus's voyages without saying a little bit more about the Renaissance and the modern development of the inquisitive mind in the Western world. As you know, you have the developments under, which I already mentioned, in the humanistic period in Italy, embodying themselves with Aquinas and Dante and others of that mind. But it was the movement of these texts also into Italy that slowly evolved into what we call the Renaissance mind. So really, this translation process that started in Baghdad in the 800s, went on into Spain in the 12 and 1300s, on into Italy thereafter, really did, in a unique way, trigger what we call Western civilization and Western culture. Well, I think I would like to break off there, and I will step out for a moment, and we'll take your questions later. Thank you. If any of you have any questions, I'd like to take them now. Yes?
I wanted to ask you, where did you say most of the Moors came from, the Arabs that went into?
Well, I'm glad you bring me back to that question, talking about Arabs and Moors. Remember, we distinguish between Arabs and Moors. Well, the Arabs, the center of Arab culture and civilization is what we call the Arabian Peninsula. And there are other Arabs that branch out from that in Palestine, Syria, Iraq, Egypt, and so on. But that would really be the Arab area, and it's defined by language. Some people ask, what is an Arab? Well, it really isn't a genealogical definition. It can become that. Because you see, even Arabs acknowledge that there are Christian Arabs, or even they say there are Jewish Arabs. As far as they're concerned, I think what an Arab is on the whole, someone who speaks Arabic. It's the best definition you can have